I'm your host, BlindBat8719. On today's video, I'll be playing for you my Dragons, Dwarves, and Treasures deck piloted by Magda, Brazen Outlaw. But before I do, just want to make a small ask of you guys. If you get a chance, click the subscribe button down below to help out the channel. Greatly appreciate it. With that small ask out of the way, Magda, Brazen Outlaw, is a legendary creature dwarf berserker for 1 and a red. It's a 2/1. Other dwarves you control get +1/+0. Whenever a dwarf you control becomes tapped, create a treasure token, sacrifice 5 treasures, search your library for an artifact or dragon card, put that card into the battlefield, then shuffle your library. When Magda was spoiled, I thought she looked like a lot of fun. I love artifacts a lot, so the idea that I could try to search up artifacts in the deck and the flavor of this card was just really immense for me, so I really was looking forward to playing with her. Naturally, I was thinking more towards we need to do find a balance between dwarf tribal and some good artifact and dragon payoffs. So first thing we're going to go over real quick are the dwarves. The way we're going to win with this deck, from a little bit of playtesting I was able to put in with the deck, is we're going to be basically aggressive and attacking our opponent, turning our dwarves sideways to get treasure tokens, and then cheat in some of our payoffs. So the dwarves, we have Axguard Cavalry in here, and again, besides the fact that this is dwarf, there's a bunch of dwarves that just got released with Kaldheim. So I was trying to find the best of the bunch. This is just a good start at a 2-drop for 2 mana. Sorry, 2/2 for 2. But the other thing too, what's nice is that the haste, the tap ability. So even if we can give we can use this to give Magda haste essentially, so we can get 2 treasure tokens. If we do it like turn 2 this, turn 3 Magda, or so that's one way of doing it. It can make if we happen to naturally draw some of our payoffs or bigger creatures, we could just have this out and give one of those things haste as well. So I thought this was a really good, efficient dwarf with upside to include into the deck. Rimrock Knight is mostly in here because he has the Boulder Rush instant stapled onto him, so it was actually like 2-in-1 cards. So it gives us some little interaction with our opponent, and then after the fact, can come a dwarf that's going to be attacking. We have to play the 7 Dwarves. I tried not to play all 7, but those cards I think ultimately ended up being worse than just being the 6th and 7th dwarf in the deck. So I decided to just found a way, and I fit all 7 into these. And this can definitely get out of hand really quickly. And again, all you need is if you can get 2 of them, that's enough with Magda out to start putting some really pressure on our opponent. So they just are a lot of fun to play with. Vault Robber, still trying him out. And this deck is, if you have any good suggestions for how I should try to build this, I'm open to them. But it seems interesting. It's not often that red gets kind of permanent, semi-permanent mana production. Yes, it works better. We can't use it right away because we need to have creatures in our graveyard first. But Vault Robber with Magda out and with a creature in our graveyard, it's basically pay 1, get 2 mana, 2 treasure tokens. So that seems really powerful to me. He's an okay blocker early on, and again, being able to have its own tap ability and with Magda out make 2 mana for 1, I think is really awesome. Dwarven Hammer is our 5-drop dwarf that's basically a 5/1 trample. It's almost like its own, like a Dwarven Lightning, a Bolt Lightning. Now that I'm saying it, Ball Lightning. Now that I'm saying it out loud, this is something we could potentially search for. Not what we really want to, but I do think this equipment is worthwhile. It's on theme, and it gives us another dwarf. And again, even the equipment by itself gives +3 in trample, +3/+0 in trample to one of our other creatures, making that a very capable threat in its own right. And of course, Torbran, Thane of Redfell is in here. You could make the argument about making him the other commander for this deck, but that's not where I wanted to go. I built this more to play with Magda. If you want, you could always try to swap the 2 around a little bit. They probably are interchangeable. But he's a dwarf, and he makes all our red sources deal an extra 2 damage. So, great inclusion into the deck. So next we're going into our payoffs, which are mostly dragons that I found in the deck. Sorry, in the arena when I was looking through this stuff. One of the caveats, what I was looking for with our payoffs, though, is since we're sacrificing 5 treasures, ideally we want to get a card that's worth more than 5 mana. So The top two priorities that we're probably going to go for are going to be Terror of Mount Velus and Embercleave, and then Terror of the Peaks comes in third. Terror of Mount Velus gives all our creatures double strike. It's probably at this point going to be an obvious, as the format goes on, a really obvious play at times. Like, oh, they have 4 creatures out. They're gonna probably grab him and give everything double strike. But again, once we give everything, it's almost an instant speed battle trick that says instant speed, everything you control gets double strike, and then he sticks around afterwards. Embercleave has been dominant throughout the entire, in this format, something I've constantly keep forgetting about for some reason and getting surprised by it. But it's definitely a very powerful way. It can also help us with trades where we can offer up what seems like an unfair trade, and then boom, we can flash out the Embercleave, search for it, put it into play, and now take advantage of that, deal more damage than our opponent's expecting, and now they're dealing with an Embercleave much sooner than they were expecting in the game. And Terror of the Peaks is just Terror of the Peaks. Basically, each creature we add on into play deals more damage. We're probably not really going to flash him in unless we have something to play in our hand for the most part. This is where the extra copies of Seven Dwarves gets to be a lot better because each one comes in that much more powerful. So the first one's a 2/2, the second one's a 3/3, the third one's a 4/4. So the 4th and 5th copies started throwing around a lot of damage if Terror of the Peaks is out. Goldspan Dragon is a way, it's a new card from Kaldheim, it's a mythic. It basically is another way of generating more treasures to sacrifice to Magda, and it also doubles our mana because all of our treasures add 2 mana of any one color now instead of 1. So it's a great quick accelerant. And since he has haste, essentially it's 5 mana attack with him and get a treasure that can tap for 2 mana right away. So it's essentially getting a 4/4 flyer for 3 mana. Leyline Tyrant. This is another option we can get towards maybe near the late end of the game. I like Leyline Tyrant in this deck because it lets us hold on to our mana this way. This way we can build it up over time, and then if we have a way to kill this by any chance, we can throw it all at any target, preferably our opponent's face. So I think this is a fun card to have in the deck. Gadwick the Crown Scourge I feel is very thematic for the deck in that he can't attack unless we have 4 more artifacts. He creates treasure tokens for each non-token creature that died this turn. He's a 5/4 flying for 3 mana. We're probably not going to be able to attack with him most of the time because with the test playing that I've done with this deck, we tend to be pretty aggressive with our use of the treasure tokens. And because they get generated by tapping, and typically we're attacking our opponent to turn our dwarves, have them become tapped, it's too late for Gadwick to be able to attack at that point. So he's a fun inclusion for me. I'm hoping he'll work out better. He's definitely a great blocker early on. And if we get to turn him on, we get to turn him on. Now, one of the ways we have that's not attacking to turn on, to turn our dwarves sideways to activate Magda's ability, are these 2 vehicles. I chose Funeral Longbolt and Gilded Assault card, basically because it's a crew of 2 and a crew of 1. I was considering playing the other, I think it's common vehicle from Kaldheim, that's crew 3. But I found that I feel like crew 3 is just a little too expensive because 2 and 1, you can chip in damage that way, but you start sacrificing 3 damage to turn a vehicle into a creature. I start thinking you're losing out some value, and it's kind of a little hard to turn on 3 with our dwarves. But with Funeral Longbolt and Gilded Assault card, one of the plays I've been liking so far has been to, on turn 2, play out the Funeral Longboat, and then turn 3, play out Magda, tap her to crew the longboat, which then gives a treasure token, and we can play out another 2-drop right away to kind of get a little further on the board. So that's one of the plays I've been liking. And then a Gilded Assault card, again, it's kind of the same idea. Can't be as aggressive because it costs 3, but this would be a way to tap our dwarves really quickly. Even if they're summoning sick, we can tap them to automatically generate more treasure tokens. And then the fact that we can sacrifice 2 to bring this back to our hand is useful. And Trample 5/1 I think is again a powerful card to have to help us finish things out. Morag Fury of Akum is in here basically for his landfall ability, that if we happen to get him out and swing, we get 1 set of treasure tokens, and then we play a land, all of our creatures on tap so they can attack again, get us more treasure tokens, and hopefully search out a victory at that point. So that's why he is in the deck. This next pile is our interaction we have with our opponent. Shadow Skull Smashing. Again, we will be able to hopefully kill 2 of their creatures. With the treasure tokens out, we can get the 6 mana a lot more easily, so we can kill some larger things a lot more easily. It's also our 24th land in the deck. Soul Seer. When I was building the deck, I knew I needed a little more interaction. Having played with this in some other decks, I felt that 3 mana instant for dealing 5 damage to creature or planeswalker and it losing destructibility. Knowing that Heliod's still out and about, I felt this would be a good way to kind of interact with Heliod decks to get rid of Heliod at some point when it becomes online as a creature. Tybalt's Trickery is a new card from Kaldheim. It's a red counterspell. And every time I've used it so far, it's been all upside for the most part. We're not going to use it. I know there's some combos going out right now where you would counter your own spells to get something better. He's not the card we're trying to do that with. We're trying to do that a little bit, but this is not the card that we're doing this with. In some of the test games I've found, we have been able to use this to stop our opponent either from, we're trying to cast something big, and this gives us our protections from this will protect our spells that we want to resolve. If there's something scary on our opponent's side we don't want them to have, we get to stop that as well. I remember playing against opponent using the new Asiki card, and they tried to play out the Rainbow Bridge, and I'm like, Tybalt's Trickery? And that definitely came out clutch. All right, so that's, so I think moving forward, Tybalt's Trickery should basically going to be an auto-include in every red deck, even if you're the aggressive kind, just because at some point you're going to want to resolve something, and this will be your way of forcing through that last thing that you need. And yes, you're playing with fire because they might get something that could be better than what they're trying to cast, but I feel like if they're trying to cast, get another counterspell for this, it could happen, but I think it's worth rolling the dice to make, to possibly protect our spells. Fire Prophecy is in here basically because I think it's just a really efficient card. It's an instant for 2 mana, deals 3 damage to a small creature, and then we can take something that we don't want, either that we can't cast right now like a Morag, or something that we want to search up like a Terror of Mount Velus or an Embercleave, and put that back into our deck to be searched up for later. Cinderclasm, I feel like every deck should have a little bit of a board wipe. I didn't want to run Storm's Wrath because that essentially will wipe most of our board out. With Cinderclasm, I feel comfortable playing this one because if we do it for 1 damage, most of our stuff will survive. If we do it, and this also with 1 damage could at least deal with the scoot mobs that have been running around. 2 damage, again, most of our stuff will survive. Some of it, not so much now, because again, if we have 2 dwarves out there, 3/3, so they'll easily survive with Cinderclasm. I'm sorry, when I say 2 dwarves, I'm referring to 2 Seven Dwarves. But I think having a small, potentially one-sided sweeper that can deal with most of their stuff and our stuff stays around, I think is really useful. If we happen to have Torbran out, this basically becomes a 3-mana Storm's Wrath. Maybe not ideal, but it is an interaction to be aware of in the deck. The next pile here is our card advantage spell. So Maze Mind Tome. So actually, before I go into Maze Mind Tome, so the reason why I'm not considering the other artifacts as payoffs is because most of these actually cost less than the 5 mana we're sacrificing to get them. So that's why they're treated as a different category, and these are the ones that are considered the payoffs. So while we have other artifacts that we could search out, they're probably the ones we're not going to be searching out. If we can, if things are going well, we're not searching these ones out. So Maze Mind Tome is here to help smooth out our draws with the Scry ability, or give us more cards in hand with the pay to draw card on effect. Tome of Legends is kind of for the same reason, get us more card draw. This is a card with Magda. This is will be hopefully being put a lot of counters on really quick. So you do want to be attacking with her if we can, and she'll be entering in the battlefield. They're early enough that we almost would want to do maybe Tome on 2, her on 3 sort of thing. Yeah, actually it works either way, because we play her out first and then play this out and swing. We'll get an extra counter and the mana to actually use it right away. Seize the Spoils is something I'm still kind of on the testing out phase, but I still kind of like it. I like the idea of being able to get 2 more cards and create a treasure token. I know we're probably breaking even, but I think if it helps us cast something on turn 4 a little bit easier, cast a 5-drop a turn sooner, I think it's a great idea, and I'm still playing it out. If it burns me, I could always switch it back for a Thrill of Possibility. Valakut Awakening. This is our 25th land, but I really want to be using it for the Valakut Awakening side of it, as if we happen to be stuck in hand with something like our payoff cards, Terror of the Peak, Embercleave, Terror of Mount Velus, that we are able to now cycle them, put them into the bottom of our library, draw some cards that we actually can cast or would want to cast, and this way then we can then sneak them back into play with Magda. So that's why Valakut's in here. Luca Coppercoat Outcast. Haven't had much time to play with him lately, but I was thinking when I'm looking at what we have a lot of small costed things that can be easily upgraded to something a little bit bigger or scarier. So I thought that this would be a perfect deck that we could use to use Luca's -2 ability to basically, if we want to swing with a dwarf, maybe get a treasure token out of the exchange. If they don't kill it, we then play out Luca, sacrifice it, and now we get something scarier into play. Ox of Agonas is in the deck essentially as a mid-game card draw to kind of, if we empty out our hand, which we can pretty quickly, we'll be able to refill, get some more cards in our hand, and also lets us play with our graveyard. Hopefully, if there's any rogue decks playing around, we can hopefully minimize our graveyard a little bit and not make their rogues as powerful. Last group here is just our mana ramp package, so Arcane Signet for the ramp, Heraldic Banner for ramp, and a little extra power to the as we name red. Fires of Invention just lets us cast more things, so I'm always a fan of this card in red decks. And Solemn Simulacrum just seems like a fun artifact. If we, in a pinch, we can search for this, but I felt like at 4, it's a good thing to get us to our 5th mana. If it dies, it draws us a card. Mana-based wise, Castle Embereth to add a little more power to our creatures. Dwarven Mine gives us a dwarf. We're running 18 mountains, so we should be able to get a dwarf out of this most of the time. Fabled Passage to thin the deck a little bit. Field of Ruin to blow up something we don't want our opponents to have. And then I was reading Tyrite Sanctum, and I think it's a good addition, as Magda will probably be targeted a lot, and if we can make her a little bit stronger, and then either by making her a god, and then later on making her indestructible, I think is a good thing we could try for with the deck. So now with the deck tech out of the way, let's jump into the arena for some brawls. Alright, this looks like a fine hand. We're going to keep this. We're playing against Bruce Lee 666, piloting a Nethroi Apex of Death deck. So we're probably going to expect, let's say hello. We're probably going to be expecting, there'll probably be some early ramp creatures that they don't care if they die, because they'll just mutate everything back with their commander. Oh, I guess we're going Death Touch Tribal maybe. Okay. I'll lead off with the Funeral Longbow here. So next turn, we can play land, Magda, and then crew the Longboat, get a treasure token, and then either kill the Death Toucher. I think I'd rather play out the Seven Dwarves, actually. Yeah, because that way then we can always crew the Funeral Longboat a second time. Magda. Let's crew. Next to attacks. Let's play out Dwarf. End the turn. We're not going to block end of their turn. We will crew the Longboat to get an extra treasure token. Into more Captain. Okay. Ruin. Do the Heraldic Banner. Let's play this out now. Let's name red. Everybody gets a little bit stronger. And then we tap out... Alright, I think we're going to crew here with Magda, just because we don't want her to die right now. I think it's a good play right now. And we can... I'd say Fire Prophecy, the 2-1. Let's put back... I don't think we need to put back anything right now, actually. I'll have the Maze Mine Tome for next turn. Let's swing out. They might get rid of the longboat and realize the tricks we're able to do with this, but they also don't mind if their creatures die because they'll just try to bring them back. Okay, that's fine. Do I expect them? Do I want to hold up the Tybalt's Trickery? I think I'm going to hold on the Tybalt's Trickery right now, as Magda's kind of what exposed. Alright, so we're going to actually Trickery this, because this is going to definitely get rid of our longboat, I'd say, or the other mana source. Alright, so let's see what crazy shenanigans happens here. Okay. So a little bit of an upgrade for them. Not the worst. And they're foretelling something. Okay. And let's go. Card Maze Mine Tome. Gonna crew the ship. Let's offer a trade with the ship. Alright. About the Leyline Tyrant. So this so far has not been what I'm used to. They have definitely some new cards that I've been seeing from a Nethroi deck. Mask Vandal is new. Went to more Commander, made me think with the 2 Death Touchers that they might be trying to play with a Finn and see if they can win with Death Touch effects, which I think is definitely, this is secretly like a Finn Poison deck. Call of the Death Dweller. Alright. Now they might be going after the Maze Mine Tome, unfortunately. Alright, so that gets Death Touch, the other one gets Menace. It's gonna get rid of the longboat. Oh well. So let's pay the 2. Another land. That's not good. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And they got some snow specs. Interesting. Why some snow, but not... Oh, I guess for the fixing. Alright, 6. If I swing out, Magda's going to cost 4. We're going to lose the Leyline Tyrant. And we're probably going to be worse off for the exchange, to be honest. I think I'm going to pass. I'm going to pass here. And then I could always float the mana. No, I gotta actually start commit to... Well, the Field of Ruin's an option, I guess. That's not good. True, if I swung in with Magda, they'd probably just block with a Viper. That wouldn't get much. Yep, there's Finn. Alright. Alright. Let's do some blocks. Let's block there. Let's block there. Yes. We are. He is a human and he's... Okay, I see how they're doing this. 1, 2, 3. Alright, we got our 2 poison counters. This won't... Oh boy. Alright, we're gonna have to fly a little fast here, I'd say. This needs to be, yeah. So, I would think the play they're gonna do is they're gonna play their 7th land, they're gonna mutate onto the Moss Viper, bring just about everything back. Oh, look at the Cosmos. Your Graveyard to Battlefield. Alright, Finn's back. And that's because they didn't get their land source, I'm guessing? This is not being helpful right now. Getting a little more life, that's not going to matter with the poison. Miles without Gadwick. Alright, so they need double black, green, green, black. Alright. Do I play out Magda now? If I play her out, she's a 3/1 body. There's another attacker. I could blow up the sinkhole and see if they screw up with that. Another body play is good because I realize there's Finn out there, so I can worst case I can block Finn. I could block Finn and then not have my clock go up as fast. Now, if he drew the 7th land, mutates on the Shepherd of the Cosmos, I have to block... Definitely have to block Finn, and then probably the Shepherd as well. Fabled Passage is not what we needed right there. Alright, let's swing for the attack. Let's see if he chooses to block. So Gadwick can attack now. That's a good thing. Alright. Now let's get to be interesting with the mutate. Do they have any other tricks, or are they going to mutate? This has menace, so it needs 2 things to be blocked. That'll put us to 8. We have to block these 2. Right now, they need a flying blocker, though. They either kill us here now. Search for glory. Alright, so they go up to 2 more life. Oh, that probably does the game, actually. Destroy target non-land permanent opponent. If only I guess if I had 1 more. Yeah, I think they got it. All right, but I haven't seen the animation yet, so I do want to see what happens if I get poisoned. Take the action. Resolve all. Oh, nothing special? That's it? Okay. All right, no, that was a good game. That was some. We unfortunately had a few bad draws with the land, but overall that was fun. My initial gut reaction was to mulligan this because I only saw the mound, but I forgot that the Valakut Awakenings are 25th land. And while we'd rather have Terror of the Peaks, again, something to search up, we can, with the Dwarves, Magda, and maybe Gadwick, we might be able to get with Gadwick and Terror, so I actually want to keep this one for right now. We're playing against Charles the Kid, piling a Jorael, Mwonvuli, Recluse deck. So this deck is going to be focused on a lot of draw 2 spells in green. And we'll say hello. We'll lead off with the Valakut Awakening as the land. Next turn. Alright, so we're going to go on, I think, the aggressive Seven Dwarves play, potentially. Well, we either, so our options I'm looking at, I would think, we either swing with, we can play out another Dwarf, which we may need to consider playing a Dwarf out now. If we play out Magda, we can swing, offer a trade, which I don't see them doing. So I think we're going to be defensive here. No attacks. Now, I do got to worry they could have a fight effect, which would... Well, actually, if they do fight, we'll end up dealing more damage. Air supplies, that's a good one for their deck. I like that. Really cool. Alrighty, a little salvation. So I think we'll do the trick here of playing out Magda. Swinging with everybody. We get 2 more treasures. And Gadwick dies. I think going with the other 7 Dwarves is the better play here. We don't have to worry about a board wipe as much from our opponent in mono green. Kogla is probably the scariest thing we have to worry about. And I think here we can do some interesting surprises. We can swing with the 4. I'll probably try to block Magda. At this point, him getting an extra card in hand, that's a good question. Let's see now. So we take that, we go down to 21. We swing out. They all got small things. We can basically deal 15 damage. Then we throw in an Embercleave. I'm going to say no blocks. We get 4 more tokens. This is an 8-mana play. Plus. Alright, so this is going to be red. So red. 1, 2, 3. Sorry, 4 more tokens. We have 6 mana left over 7. We actually have the 5 here. Alright, let's see what they do for blocks. Those 2 block through, that's... I think we sacrifice here. Let's activate our ability. Sacrifice 5 of these. Get the Velus. And I think that might be game. Terror of Mount Velus. Everybody gets double strike. All our stuff survives. Good game. Alrighty, and that's what we want to do with the deck. That's how we want to win. Alright, this hand seems not too bad. Again, with the longbow again, which is really useful with Magda. Tome of Legends is alright. Fires will be useful, and Embercleave could be a nice aggressive finish. We're playing against Gadwick the Wizened, piloted by Cat No Banana. Yeah, I'm gonna keep this hand. Probably gonna crack the Fabled Passage turn. Nope, turn 4 now. Let's say hello to our opponent. Snow-covered island. That can be good stuff for us. So we'll see now if our trick of Funeral Longboat with Magda will survive going against a control deck. Turn 3 is usually the pivotal one to worry about. Maze Mine Tome. Okay. Here's not something we want to see in our hands right now. We'll go with still stick with the same plan. I'm not a huge fan of playing out. I'm not liking the fact that we might play Magda out on turn 3 because I'm afraid that they should probably end up getting countered by that point, because 3 mana is usually the turn where control decks will keep up a counter spell for 3 at that point. There we go. Okay, I was like, is he gonna skip his land drop? So let's let him use his counter magic on Tome of Legends. And so with the Maze Mine out, it's not much of a loss for them if they're scrying. They would draw a card off of that. Ah, that's what they wanted to cast. Okay. Instant or sorcery card. Mystical Dispute. Alright, so now we know they have a counter spell. So we have to pick and choose our time. Rimrock. Alright, at this point we'll crack the Fabled Passage. Just to thin the deck of one more mountain. So if we go with Fires, it gets countered. This is unless they pay 3. We could still kind of play around it. This is not going to survive. Fires might be something we want to play towards potentially, as that will let us play out a Terror of the Mount Velus relatively good. Well, we're probably actually going to get to 7 mana on our own anyway, so let's start out the Fires of Invention and see what they say to that. Gate. Alright, so that gets rid of something else. Okay. Five mana is probably the Shark. Let's see if they have the Shark. Alright. Let's crew her up. Of freedom. Okay. Entirely possible I should be playing Rimrock Knight as a creature at this point, just to build the battlefield. We gotta play around that Mystical Dispute, that's the only thing. Let's draw a card with the Tome of Legends here. Alright. Tyrant Sanctum. Play out the Maze Mine Tome. Entirely possible they use the 6-cost counter spell at this point. Let's play out Rimrock Knight as a creature. through here. So that'll give us 2 creatures to attack with. Into the Royal. Okay. Screw again with Magda. This way then we'll still get a counter out of the engagement. I feel like they gave us a free roll on casting her. So, let's see if this works. Because they can't use the Mystical Dispute that we know about right now because we only have 2 mana up. So it has to be like an Essence Scatter in order to stop Magda at the moment. And if they try to use... Okay, there we go. So we get another point on that, which is great. We'll swing with the longbow at this point. And then we should be able to swing in with, let's see, we have about 3 tokens. Velus, unfortunately, is in our hand. Embercleave is in our hands. So that leaves us with a Terror of the Peaks, potentially. Gadwick. Okay. Going to draw a card. So he's definitely going to try to tap down some of our stuff, which will be kind of funny because that actually allows us to get more mana. Alright, so let's crew up here. Submit 3. Alright, let's move to combat. So let's see what crazy shenanigans they got right now. So let's swing out. Let's start by casting the Embercleave. See if they have a hard counter to that. They do have a hard counter to that. Okay. That's fine. Alright, that's going to resolve. There goes the Embercleave. Alright. Let's activate the ability. Sacrifice 5 treasures. Let's go digging. Our next best bet then would be... I feel like a Terror of the Peaks is usually the best answer at this point. And then let's actually put a counter on Magda and we'll trade with Gadwick then. May not be a great idea because that means they get the reaction. Now he's off the board. Then we can draw another card off with Tome. Maybe resolve with Terror. And let's end the turn there. So we have a couple options here. We can definitely try to... Oh, what spell do they get back now? Sildani Vision. Okay. So that goes on top. Right? Alright, we rolled too much for our opponent. Alright, he got there. And that is the video for today. Overall, I think Magda is a fun general to play with. I think she has some really explosive starts. I really enjoy the interaction with her and vehicles, or dwarves, her and vehicles. That was a fun play style to use. Some of the things that I'm thinking the deck might need, I've had some problems with the late game. Either I need to either get better at my mulligans, or maybe start considering to include some of the things I might want to throw in Ugin, just so that, like everybody else, I have a backup, get me out of jail free card with him to wipe the board and hopefully bring myself more to parity with my opponent. And since I'll be casting him, I hopefully will know I will be able to better line up something like that. I'm considering maybe trotting down. I'm running 23 straight up lands. I might cut down one and turn another one into a Modial Dual Face from Zendikar. I'm thinking either Kazul's. I think Kazul's Fury could be interesting with this to kind of fling one of our big things at the very end. Other possibility I thought as well, maybe to try to throw in a Forsaken Monument and one or two more artifact creatures like the new Scarecrow. That's the Foretell. This way then you could foretell it for 2 and then pay 0 on the following turn for him. Thought that might be some other interesting ways to take the deck. Things that I thought that were really performing, and Magda herself's amazing. Tybalt's Trickery is 50-50, but I sometimes think if you think it's still worth playing because your opponent can whiff. It just in my case, the last couple of times it's always been into a Nighthawk, so that has been the best examples. But also using Magda's ability to get to sneak out a Terror of the Peak or an Embercleave is great. Morag, I think this deck, as cool as the idea would be to untap with him, I think he might be more of a win more card, and he might get swapped out for Yadaro, because usually I like things that are better early and late, and Morag, I don't really have a way to search him up, and he's not something that is can be useful early. So those are some of my thoughts on how I might move the deck, build the deck moving forward. But I would love to hear what your suggestions are. If you play with a Magda deck, how you've built yours, what you think. I'm looking forward to actually trying out the Tyrite Sanctum, making her indestructible. I think this is a nice addition. So I'd say for anybody else who wants to build this, I think Tyrite Sanctum's a good card to include in a deck with Magda in it. And I definitely think the Funeral Longboat is maybe a one or two other vehicles. The Gilded Assault card hasn't seen too much play, but I think that one's definitely a better option over, say, I think it's the Narv is the other one. And Gadwick the Crown Scourge is the other questionable spot, but I'm going to probably play with him a little more before I cut him out. But like I said, let me know what your comments are on the deck down below. Let me know how you would build yours. If you build a Magda deck, I'd definitely like to try some different versions out. If you like today's video, please click the thumbs up icon down below. If you really like what I'm doing, please subscribe to the channel and hit the bell notification icon to have Brawl videos brought to your inbox on a weekly basis. This one's a little later than usual because the set just kind of came out and I'm recording on a later schedule than normal, so I'm going to try to get this one out as soon as I can. As always, thank you for visiting the Batcave and have a great day.